Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. I don't really need these in, I don't guess. Hi. I'm going to be painting my my gnome today. We're gonna do an Easter bunny gnome. I'm getting ready to list it on Etsy as soon as I get this posted. I'm also gonna put it on my website. I'm actually in the process of adding my digital files are all on my website, but they're hidden. They're not really readily available because my website's been kind of geared towards people that want to buy physical products, which I'm still going to have. That's going to be still a big part of my business, but I'm kind of revamping these digital files because they're just so much fun to make and they're popular. You guys are loving them and I'm just very appreciative. So I want to give you guys what you're looking for. So I am going to show you how I paint my gnome, my little gnomey I've already cut him out. I'm gonna flip the camera around just a second and show you. But he's really cute and I don't think it's gonna take very long to paint him and then put him together, and then I'll show you how I make him stand up. Okay, so here is my little gnomey. So I've got all the little pieces here and I've got the base for him, and then I have not cut the stand out, but I'll cut it out before I end the video. Sorry about the sun. The sun is shining today. I'm so happy. And there's my coffee. It's actually mushroom coffee. You guys should check that out. If you don't drink mushroom coffee, you should get on that train. It's very healthful. But anyway, here's my gnome. I'm going to show you what I use. So I'm going to use little makeup sponges, and I've also recently found these little like flat sponges, and I used them yesterday when I was painting my Easter gnome, not my Easter gnome, sorry, my Easter bunny insert for my leaner that I just put up on Etsy this morning. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. But these are actually, I like these better than I like the makeup sponges, and these are a huge pain in the ass to wash out. I just end up throwing these away. But these, I just ran it under some water and I didn't even put soap on it, and the paint came right out. So I'm going to reuse them today. So I'm going to show you guys what I do and how to assemble him and how to make him stand up. All right, friends, I have my paint. I have my little brush here. I'm going to show you how I do this, but I am not going to record myself painting all of these pieces because, I mean, how boring would that be? I can only talk for so long. So, and I'm sure you guys don't want to listen to me drone on about God knows what anyway. So, I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do the two ears, and then I'm going to let them dry. I'm going to come back. I'm going to show you how I shade the edges. Sometimes I shade the edges on them. Sometimes I don't. It's just personal preference. You can also take a paint pen, like a white one, and you can draw little, I have a little scrap piece of wood here. You can draw little like lines with dots or little hashtags or anything to kind of like just put little embellishments on the edges. Like if you had your little ear, I'm not going to do it on this piece, but if you had your little ear here, you could draw like a line and then do two little dots just to make it a little more interesting than just the plain. But sometimes the plain is just perfectly fine. So here's all I do. I have a scrap piece of wood that I'm going to use as a palette today, mostly due to laziness. So, oops, sorry about that. All right, there you go. So I'm going to put my little paint on here. I'm going to dab just a little bit of paint on the edge of this brush, and then I'm going to dab it off. And then I'm going to come over to my ear, and I'm going to start dabbing. Now, here's the thing about these little brushes. They leave that, I don't know if you can tell, but they leave that little like spongy looking effect on the pieces, and I don't love that. So what I've been doing is just kind of brushing it really, really lightly. That's the only bad thing about these. And really, I don't know. I need to go back and check my other piece to see if it dried flat. Actually, well, I guess we'll find out in just a minute. So I'm gonna see if it actually dries flat. I can't remember. I used this brush yesterday for something, but it was black, so you couldn't really tell if it dried that way, but we'll see. It's always, and this is especially true if you're having paint, if you're doing paint parties right now. And I did paint parties for several months in the fall, and I actually did one earlier this year. I actually did one in January for Valentine's Day. And I love paint parties. They're amazing. I made a lot of money on paint parties. But I have 2 kids, and my husband travels 3 days a week, every week without fail. He's done it for a decade, so it's just something we're used to. And I cannot dedicate the time, especially during the week is when the paint parties are most popular. And a lot of people wanted to have them on Wednesday nights, and I can't do Wednesday nights because I cannot be gone from my kids every week like that. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to me, and it's not fair to my guests, because sometimes I feel like I'm rushing and I gotta go home. So I'm really not doing a whole lot of paint parties anymore. I will do them sporadically just because I love people and I love being around people, but this season of my life is just not the best time for me to be having consistent paint parties. So that's why I'm no longer doing them. If you had been following me and wondered why I'm not doing anymore, that's why. Maybe someday I will add them back. Okay, so it actually does look like that it's drying pretty flat. It looks really nice actually, and I think once it completely dries and I start to add my shading, it's going to be totally fine. So I am going to finish up the ears. I'm going to finish up and then I'll come back when I start on a new piece so you can see the color choices that I make, so that you don't, I mean, you can choose whatever colors you want, but I know sometimes it's always helpful to have some bodies just to kind of go by. So I will be back with completed all white pieces. I don't think I'm going to do his beard white. I think I'm actually going to do his beard like a gray color, pastel pinks for, oh, not necessarily pink, but pastel colors for his hat and his carrot, and the little legs that has little pants on, and then little shoes. So I will be back with all of those choices in just a bit. All right, the whole point of me going into my paint party tangent was to tell you that when you are doing these pieces and you're using these brushes like this to dab on your paint, it is so important to drive home that you don't want very much paint on your brush or on your makeup sponge when you are doing this, because if you get too much, it will seep over the edge and it will look really, really messy. I struggled with that for a long time, and it's actually one of the main reasons that I did not pursue paint parties when I first got my laser, because I could not figure out how to teach people not to get it all over the edges. It was just a frustrating thing, because I would think, well, I've got to have a lot of paint because I need to cover the wood, but you can always go back and add another coat, which I am definitely going to do on both of these. The white especially, and usually I actually use interior house paint from Home Depot to do these. I learned that trick when I was taking some advice from a fellow party planner named Dawn. She runs Sign Parties 101, and if you don't know her, you need to go check her out because she's amazing. Sign Parties 101 is what it is. But you can always go back and add more paint. You can add more layers so that it will cover more. So that was the whole thing. And it never fails. Every time that I have a paint party, somebody gets mad because not mad, that's the wrong kind of word. Frustrated maybe. And not towards me, but they get frustrated with themselves because they get done and they look at their edges and they're like, oh, that's really messy. And then they try to go back and cover the edges with paint, and it's so much more work than it needs to be. So light paint, light dabbing, that's it. Oh, and another trick is to take a piece of painter's tape and put it down on your table so that your pieces don't flop up like they're flopping up now, but I'm too lazy. Actually, there's some over here, so I'm gonna get that set up before I come back. So, okay, that's it. I'll be back. Okay, so I've started to shade some of my pieces, and I'm going to show you how I shade. There are all kinds of different techniques out there that will kind of produce the same effect, but this is the way that I prefer to do it. I use oil pastels that you can buy on Amazon, you can buy them on Hobby Lobby, and I tend to use this like, it's almost like a charcoalish color, and I use it for all the colors. So I don't have to mix paints and make them darker or anything like that. It's just one little stick here, and all I do is take this edge and just kind of lightly go across. I'm not going to go around the whole thing, but just maybe some pieces here and then here, and then you take your finger and blend it. And the really cool thing about these oil pastel kind of crayons is that if you mess it up, meaning if you get some where you don't want, you can take a wet cloth and wipe it right off. Just a little wet cloth, Lexi. Okay, let's say I don't like that. I can take a little wet cloth and wipe it off, and it will come off. So that's all there is to it, just for shading. And I know when you're doing this, you're gonna think, oh gosh, that looks really like dingy and gross. But when you put it all together, it's really, really cute, and it looks weathered, and it just gives you a different kind of effect than just leaving it plain. If you don't like this, of course, you don't have to do it. You can leave it just solid. You can add the lines like we had talked about earlier. Or like I said, you can just leave it blank. But I love adding the shading to some of my pieces, or some of my, projects, just because it just looks a little bit different, and it just gives a little something extra. So I'm going to finish shading and painting all of my pieces, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to assemble it. All right, we have the Easter Gnome all painted and shaded, and he looks so cute. I can't wait to get him all pieced together. So all I did was just lay out the pieces to make sure that I had them all. Everything looks great. And now I am going to use this Loctite super glue. Now usually I use the gel, but Amazon sent me the wrong stuff, and I don't even know what they sent me. So they sent me some brush on, and then they sent me this, and whatever, we're making it work. So I am going to just, this is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to bore you with how to glue pieces on, but I'm just going to put some glue on here, and then I'm going to attach it, and then I'm going to show you how to attach the stand. Now the stand that I cut out I use scraps. Every time that I need to make a stand, I use scraps. So this is the scrap I had. It actually has 3M on the back, which is not a big deal, but I'm not going to peel this off because I'm putting the glue on the edge, and then I'm going to stick it onto the gnome just like that, and then it stands up. So I will get all this glued and then let it dry, and then I'll show you how to attach the stand. Okay. All right. He's done. Yay. So now I've got my little stand. Again, I just cut this out of scraps. I'm going to, so there's two sides to this. So you can do it on this really slanty side or more of the straight side. If you do it on this side, it will be like leaned back a little bit. I like to do it on this side, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put glue right there along that edge. I'm actually going to flip this guy over. Okay. And oops, I'm going to put glue right along that little edge. And I hate this stuff, you guys. Don't get this brush on. It's horrible. It's a pain. I like the gel, the Ultra Gel Control Loctite. Okay, so got a little glue on there. Now I'm going to try to get it in the center as best as possible. And I'm going to put this down all the way towards the bottom. And I'm going to hold this here until it dries, and then we will flip it over and he will be done. Yay! Right, he is all done. This is dried, only took a couple minutes to dry, and there we go. And you see it's really sturdy. Those fin type, I love these fin type stands. There's no
need for a bottom part. There's no need to measure slots. I mean, they do have their purpose. I think that slots definitely have their purpose, but for stuff like this, just make it easier on yourself and put a fin on it and call it a day, because it's not going anywhere. So this is my guy. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.